General anxiety disorder, what is it and how to overcome it? Do you suffer from anxiety? Is it getting you down? Would you like to learn some coping strategies which would make it easier to overcome anxiety? Well, then tune into this video and find out how. Anxiety is a big problem for a lot of people. Uh, Something in the region of 4 or 5% of the world's population is probably suffering from general anxiety disorder, GAD, at any one time. And apparently up to 9% of the world's population will suffer from GAD at some stage. Well, the first thing I want to say to you is, don't feel alone, okay? A lot of people have it. Also, don't get hung up over symptoms or classifications. One of the things I find disturbing with allopathic medication or allopathic medicine is a tendency to generalize, and everything's a category. And oh my God, I've got anxiety. Oh, I got general anxiety disorder. Okay. What the hell is general anxiety disorder? General anxiety disorder is anxiety. We all get anxious, but if you're having a lot of general anxiety, if you're having anxiety a lot of the time, you're probably got what could be classified as general anxiety disorder. So things like you're tense all the time, you're worried all the time, you've got maybe palpitations, maybe you get panic attacks quite often, you're fearful, you're constantly thinking something bad is going to happen, you're constantly checking updates on your phone, you're worrying about your family members and checking in on everybody. This is basically the normal stuff with general anxiety disorder. The other thing we could say as well is what would differentiate general anxiety from regular anxiety. Usually the people who have general anxiety seem to be more perfectionistic, more focused on control, and more focused on negative thoughts. So if you're particularly, let's say, like a control freak, perfectionist, a constant worrier, always thinking of negative outcomes, always thinking worst case scenarios, you've probably got or could be classified as having general anxiety disorder. So join the human race. Most of us have some or other form of anxiety. And personally, I think the way to cure anxiety is to take a big picture view. So if you check most videos out on YouTube, they give endless details about what general anxiety disorder is. It's just anxiety, but ramped up, okay? You got extra anxiety. Curing it, of course, they'll say things like, you got to exercise, you got to eat a nice diet, you got to go for a walk, you got to do things to nurture yourself. You got to find out what's triggering it. And you got to find out having relaxation techniques and so on. And that's the general thing they'd say. But what I want to do in this video is to give you something like more of a big picture overview on how to overcome general anxiety disorder. So I think the first thing we have to understand is, why do we get anxious in the first place? The reason why we get anxious is fight or flight. Human beings are on this planet for 2 million years, and the majority of that time was pretty bloody. There was a Mel Gibson film, you can check it out. I think it's Apocalypto, I think it is. Apocalypto. It's kind of a film about all these tribal guys in South America killing each other. And it's a pretty good description of life in the old days. So basically you fight or flight. You're either fighting the tiger or running away from the tiger. You're either fighting the other tribal or running away from the tribal. So we're actually set up to be anxious. And we need a certain amount of anxiety to survive. We need a certain amount of tension to survive, okay? Just look at anybody who's long-term unemployed. You have kind of an opposite tension, too little to do. So the problem is that in the last few hundred years, basically, we've developed our modern civilization, and we've learned how to sit nicely and speak nicely and do the right thing. And we're constantly repressing these instincts. So what actually happens is, often we're in situations where we'd like to punch somebody's lights out. We're often in situations where we'd like to go and run away. Okay? If you're having a panic attack, you just want to run away. If you feel like somebody's punching somebody's lights out, well, what's happening there is natural aggression. But of course, it's not acceptable in today's society. So what happens is because we're repressing our natural desires to either punch somebody or run away from somebody, and also our sexual desires to grope somebody, say, it causes a stress or a tension, okay? And the problem we have as well is stressors, okay? So that's just general repression in society, but we also have stressors. And what I mean by that is, we have this kind of instinct, this survival instinct built into us to check out, reality check for risks and dangers, okay? So let's say, for example, you're in the savannah or somewhere like that, thousands of years ago, and you're constantly looking out. Somebody, is the tiger going to come? Okay, is the other tribe going to come? And we do this as well today, but the problem we have today is most of us are not living in a tribal situation. Most of us, is because everything's happening in real time. If you're in this situation, you're in a very primitive place. These people will be dealing with violence, but then also they could relax a lot. They weren't thinking about the future. They're just thinking about today. But we've got things like pension plans. We got things like retirement. We got things like the college fees and looking for a job and existential crisis and all this stuff. So we're still getting the stressors, but there's no direct way to cure them, because the normal direct way to cure a stressor would be to hit somebody or run away from somebody or have some sexual interaction with somebody. They're the three major ways, okay? So we're not getting an opportunity to do these. We're constantly being stressed. We're constantly being triggered. And we look at the news, and the news is just fear porn. I mean, the news is like everything's so tragic and so horrible, and you wouldn't believe what happened here. And, you can watch news today, like back hundreds of years ago. You could be living in a village, and the people in the next county are being slaughtered, and you don't even know, but you find out 20 years later. They only live 50 miles from where you're living. But nowadays, you're seeing everything everywhere. So many people died, So we're overcome with fear porn, with the endless barrage in the news of fear and stress. And so this is triggering us and putting us into a more and more and more anxious state. So this is what I feel is the real cause of general anxiety disorder, is that we have a natural way of dealing with things which involves either hitting somebody, running away from somebody, or having some sexual interaction with them, or just basically expressing yourself wildly in song or dance or whatever. And none of these are options in our modern society. So people are getting more and more wound up like a tight spring. So while I agree with those techniques of exercise and diet, why is diet important? Because you don't want a diet that's full of refined carbohydrates, empty calories, and has you very high in, say, things like caffeine, very high in simple sugars that has you kind of wired, okay? You don't have too many stimulants. You need to exercise your body, and it releases endorphins and do the relaxation and so on. But the real big picture view is you need to relax. You need to unwind and de-stress, and there's many different ways you can do it. And if you look at the videos on this channel, I talk about various things. Like one of the things I talk a lot about is working on yourself. So that involves things like diary writing and what I call unearthing your life story, finding out what makes you tick, finding out what things you like, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, rather than the generic view of who you are, really finding out who you are and what you need as well as what you want. Because we can forgo our need or our wants, but we cannot forgo our needs, okay? So say, for example, you have a need to be expressive and you're not being expressive. Well, that's going to cause problems. That's going to cause anxiety. So you need to find an outlet for that expression. Doesn't mean you give up your job and become a singer, but maybe you take up singing or dancing or a musician or painting or something. Maybe you have a need to do something with your hands, okay? You're working in the office all day, but you have a need to chop wood. You need to build a house. You need to do something practical, okay? There's so many different things, outlets for your tension and anxiety, okay? So that's the big picture view, is realizing what causes anxiety in general, not getting wrapped up, I've got GAD. Yeah, of course you got GAD. It's worse. It's like extra turbocharged anxiety. It's just anxiety. To get rid of anxiety, you've got to go and find some way of expressing how you think, how you feel, relaxing and unwinding. And of course, things like going for walks and exercises there. But the main thing is finding out what you need, okay? Maybe you need to change your job or profession or where you live. Maybe you need to make some relationship changes. But it all begins by learning about yourself, who you are, and what you need as well as what you want, okay? Because the more you satisfy your needs and do things that you like doing, even if it's only a small degree on the side, these are ways of, expressing yourselves And we can think of it in terms of libido, and I don't mean sexual libido. When Sigmund Freud first came up with the concept of libido, he meant drives. And of course, everybody thinks libido, how's my mojo, how's my libido? Of course, there's an aspect of that, but a big aspect is we need to express ourselves. We need to get it all out. I mean, why do people like going to music concerts or festivals or going on a holiday? Because you're just de-stressing. So the first and foremost way of dealing with general anxiety disorder is you need a lifestyle change whereby you start working more on yourself, finding out what you like doing and do what you like doing. Another thing you can do is look for triggers. Again, this comes from writing in a journal. And, every time you're not feeling so good, write something down in a journal. Explain in the journal. Or you can take your phone out and make a little video or an audio. Get your truth out. I remember when I was a young guy and I had a lot of anxiety myself, because back when I was in my early 20s, I had severe depression. When the severe depression cleared, I had anxiety. General anxiety disorder for 7 years. I had it for 7 years. I was just in a mess. But it was better than the depression. Depression was totally hopelessness. The general anxiety disorder was just icky. I just felt bad every day, stressed every day, upset every day, no energy, always feeling not good. But I was able to work my way through it. Okay, so this is the other thing to realize, is that what's triggering it. So if you start writing it down, so back at that time, I used to sit or walk around the landing in my parents' house, and I just talk to myself about where I'm stuck and where I'm at. I have a kind of conversation with myself. So this is speaking your truth. I did that rather than writing a diary. You could write in a diary, but it's getting it out, even if it sounds bad, getting it out. If you're up to it, you can also try and share it with other people. So rather than be moody with people you care about, talk to them about your anxiety and your issues. Get it out. Therapy. If you need to go to therapy, go to a therapist. And they will basically help you work on things like your life story, finding out what your issues are, what's triggering you, and how to cope with it, okay? So that's another thing, is the triggering aspect, all right? The other thing I would also say as well is what we have to realize, and what I think is very interesting, because when I was a young guy, I studied psychoanalysis. And the big thing, if you get into the writings of Sigmund Freud, he was actually a neurologist. He's very interested in mind work. He's very interested in nerves and nervous energy. And he believed a lot of the reason why we do what we do is for kind of an energetic balance inside the mind, because the mind's also linked to the nervous system, okay? So an energetic system there. So what I feel is when we have things like depression, when we have things like anxiety, there's a buildup of stress within the nervous system, and it has to come out, and sometimes that comes out over time. So if you've been depressed, or if you've had a major trauma, like an accident, like somebody's died on you, you're grieving, something terrible happened, some assault or attack or some bad turn in life, something bad happened, and it's left you kind of traumatized. Well, that trauma will take time to come out, and trauma tends to come out as anxiety. It has to come out bit by bit. So before you start thinking, it's terrible, I'm anxious, I want to stop being anxious. Well, you can check out most stuff that's out there. It just says go for a walk and exercise stuff. And yeah, it's true, but you've also got to journey, do your journeying, and realize that I've got this inner tension, and maybe it's good. I've got some anxiety. I don't like it, but it's coming out. And that's the way I would think, is positive thinking, to think in terms of it's coming out, it's getting out, it's coming out, it's getting out. Because if there's a psychical trauma, and believe me, my experience is we can get traumatized far easier than you think, that trauma can take time and it will come out often through anxiety, okay? So be willing to work with the process. In other words, to deal with your issues and accept your feelings. And if we look at research on general anxiety disorder, there's a strong focus on things like control and perfectionism. And this means that the inner critic of the person is very strong. And the person tends to have a lot of intolerance and a constant fear of terrible things happening, okay? So, journey, write your diary, talk to people, maybe a therapist, a husband, a wife, a friend, about your issues. Talk to yourself about it in inner dialogue, external dialogue. It's great when you speak, and work your way through it, okay? So it's a bit like having some kind of, if you have a physiological problem, like you hurt your leg, you fell off your bike and you hurt your leg, You have to work through it. You do physiotherapy and stuff. It takes weeks, months, and you get better. Same thing with your mind. Your mind is hurt in some way, and it will take you time to get through it. Okay? So be willing to accept the anxiety and start thinking more positively that I'm working through the anxiety. Another thing I'd like to say is positive thinking and using auto-suggestion. Emily Koo came with a book on auto-suggestion over 100 years ago, about 100 years ago, about 1920 or so, and the power of positive suggestion. So you can do things like every day and every way I'm getting better and better. Every day and every day I'm getting better and better. And have it in the present, not like I'll be better tomorrow. I'm getting better every day. Every day I'm becoming more relaxed, more confident, and easygoing. Every day I'm getting more relaxed, more confident, and easygoing, something like that. So you can try, if you have a lot of negative thoughts, you can try that. If, say, for example, you're filled with, conspiracy theories and catastrophe, because let's face it, we're in conspiracy theory overdrive these days, and it's not all unfounded because we're in information overdrive, and some of what we're getting is conspiracy and some of it's the truth. Either way, it's disturbing. So if you're worried about calamities, again, talk about it, write about it, get it down in your journal, okay? Try not to, too much fear porn. Try not to watch too many YouTube videos, too many articles about terrible things. We are creating a reality as a human race by what we think, what we feel, and try and be more positive and upbeat about that, okay? Another thing I would say is relaxation. Get yourself into relaxation. I'll give a link to a video I have on how to relax, just a relaxation exercise. And we can also use a bit of neuro-linguistic programming with this as well. You can have a phrase like, for example, my advice, say for example, relaxation, is every day to try a relaxation exercise. So let's say you do the one that I have in my video. So what you can start is with a little phrase, and the phrase you use the same every day. Might use a phrase like, you take 3 deep breaths and say to yourself, I am becoming deeply, deeply relaxed. I am deeply, deeply relaxed. Nothing can disturb me. I am deeply, deeply relaxed. I'm happy with myself, the world, and everything that's in it. I am deeply, deeply relaxed. Nothing is disturbing me. I am happy with myself, the world, and everything that's in it. Some variation on this, okay? Anything you like. But you have that phrase, and then you do the relaxation protocol. Now, you might have heard of Pavlov's dogs, and this is a famous story of Pavlov, whereby he'd ring a bell and give the dogs food, and then after a while, if you rang the bell, the dogs would come in. So we're habitual. And if you do something like, say, a phrase, deep breathing, a phrase, and then a relaxation protocol, all you have to do to bring that state of relaxation down, even say you're having a panic attack, you're very stressed, is do those 3 deep breaths and that phrase. So, for example, again, you do the phrase, I am deeply, deeply relaxed. I am happy with myself, the world, and everyone that's in it. Say, for example, I'm deeply, deeply relaxed. 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. I am deeply relaxed, and I'm happy with myself, the world, and everyone that's in it, okay? That end phrase I got from some hypnotherapy tape. I studied hypnotherapy years ago and had this, I'm happy with myself, the world, and everything that's in it. I can't remember the hypnotherapist. Maybe you'll know. If you know, please comment. But I liked it. I use it myself. I'm happy with myself, the world, and everything that's in it. That's very nice, okay? So immediately you'll start relaxing because you trained yourself. And that's the key, I would say, for relaxation. You must practice every day and use a protocol. So 3 deep breaths, a phrase, and a protocol of relaxation. And then you just have to do the deep breaths. You could be in an office somewhere, very stressed, doing an exam or something. 3 deep breaths, phrase, and you will become relaxed. Okay? So that's something you work on every day. A final thing is the power of meditation. Meditation can ground you. And I'm a real big believer in spiritual reconnection. And whatever that is for you, whether it's going back to religion or meditation, spirituality, the meditation system I do is called heartfulness.org. That's www.heartfulness.org. And it's a spiritual energy. There's an energy you receive, and that reconnects you, okay? So spiritual reconnection, and you can just Google spiritual reconnection and see what's out there. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. For some of you, it might be refining your religion. But the key thing is humans have a spiritual aspect. And I know a lot of people are like atheists and stuff now, and I understand that, but your mind doesn't understand that. Now, whether people like me who believe in God are crazy, it doesn't matter, it works. We human beings have a need for this. I mean, even Freud was an atheist, and he believed that people have a need for God, simply because of a fantasy, perhaps. But personally, I believe energetically that there is a God. And just like you have a trauma and it takes energetically has to work out, so too, when we have anxiety and stuff, is when we're lacking the grace of God, when we're lacking these higher level energy, it's like we're firing on 3 cylinders. You know, like if you have a car, and instead of having 4 cylinders, there's 3 or say 2 running, and the car's boop, 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 boop. And then people are wondering, oh, you know, I'm changing the paint on my car, I'm cleaning the carburetor, you're doing everything, but you're not fixing the actual problem is that the engine's got 2 cylinders instead of 4 cylinders working. It's not firing on all cylinders. And human beings need spiritual cleaning. They need like an energy to come in and clean some crap out of them, and they need to receive the grace of God in some form or other. So spiritual reconnection is a powerful thing. If you're an atheist, you can ignore this bit. If you're a bit more spiritually orientated, just think about it. Reconnection with God in some manner or form will help you. So just to summarize today, you can go down the path of labeling the general anxiety disorder. You can go down the path of, oh, you have to exercise and just trigger that thing and blah, blah, blah. The big picture is you're wired for fight or flight. We're in a society where you can't fight a fight. And what are you going to do about it? The big picture view is learning about yourself. The big picture view is working on yourself. The big picture view is learning how to relax on a daily basis. Big picture view is finding out what triggers you. The big picture view is finding out ways to relax yourself and express your needs in whatever way they are. Big picture view is reconnecting with God, the source, the higher self, call it what it will. Okay? And then there's obvious things that you can do, like obviously lifestyle. I think probably the biggest one is to get used to relaxing and try that NLP-styled idea of a phrase, 3 breaths, and an exercise protocol, a relaxation protocol, okay? So that's it in a nutshell. If you're feeling anxious today, well, join the human race. We're all feeling too anxious. But we can get it back to controllable levels by seeing the big picture, lifestyle changes, and working through it. And also get into the idea of working through it. Oh yeah, positive thinking, auto-suggestion, okay? So please, if you've never been to my channel before, take a look at a few of my videos. You'll see the same pattern come up. If you watch 4 or 5 of my videos, you'll start seeing the pattern and realizing, oh, right, it's about this working on myself, learning about myself, journaling, expressing myself. That's the biggest thing. And to some degree as human beings, no matter how much we work on ourselves, we'll always have issues with traumas, anxieties. Anxiety is the most common thing in the world, really. And it's not so much whether you have GAD, it's that you need to work through your GAD because it's telling you something. In some way or other, it's telling you something. There's something you need to work through to get out of your system. And when you stop running away from it or trying to fix it or trying to stick it back in its box and just work through it and get it out of your system, you know, you can't go back, you have to go through all traumas. And I feel that anxiety is also a trauma, but it's like a trauma in slow motion. Okay, so please check out a few other videos which might help you as well, and realize that having general anxiety disorder is just part of being part of the human race. And it's not so much that you have it, but what you do with it that matters. And I hope this helps a little bit. Please like and subscribe if you like this channel, and I'll talk to you next time.